Hello and welcome to the Powerful African Women, the PAW Podcast.
The podcast to empower the PAW in you.
I'm Aïssatou.
And I'm Saron.
And today we're going to talk about love life, parents, and African culture.
A topic chosen by our guest of the day, Farafin.
So from family pressure
to sticking with men from our culture
and marrying and dating outside your culture,
we'll discuss everything, share our experiences, and argue our points of view.
So stay tuned
and listen.
Hello and welcome to our first PAW podcast with our guest. So our first guest is Farafin.
Hi, it's nice to be here. I'm excited to do this with you guys. It's going to be so fun.
And we're so excited to having you because Farafin was actually at our first PAW meeting. She was there around the Poulet Yassa. And this is actually how I met her. Now it's time to present yourself, Farafin, by bringing up the PAW in you. So we're going to do a PAW kind of presentation. So first question, guest of today, give us your PAW identification. That is how we're going to call you throughout the podcast.
Well, you can call me Farafin. And if you want to know what Farafin...
Why Farafin?
Well, Farafin means it means dark skin or brown skin or African, really, in my language, in Bambara or Maninga or one of those Jula. It's kind of all similar, but yeah.
Yeah.
It basically means African. Because Farah is like skin and Fin is dark in color. So like Farafin.
Oh.
That's nice. It's totally a PAW name, right?
Yeah, it's such a PAW name.
Okay, so second question. We'd like to know your PAW identification country or any other country you feel linked to. So if we want to know where Farafin is coming from, which country?
Farafin is coming from Mali, period. Okay? No, I'm just kidding.
I love how she's so confident about it.
It's just interesting. Well, yeah, that's funny because like I'm definitely a true African American because like my dad is American. He's Black American, born and raised here. But I mean, he's traveled a lot. He's lived in Africa, like Ivory Coast, Mali. I think Guinea. I'm not really sure, but he's lived in West Africa. But then my mom is from Mali. Like she's a Malian of Bamana. So I just like to claim my Malian side. So that's who
nice.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm Malian. That's just kind of what it is.
That's good.
Proud.
Yeah, we love that.
How? Yeah.
Okay, so now a more kind of serious question. What is your PAW academic and professional career? By that, I mean, what is the path that bring you here and will help you reach your PAW goal?
I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a loaded question because coming into school, now I'm a third year, and coming into school, I was like, had the intention of like going to medical school, being a doctor. I was pre-med, I was a neuroscience major, but then I changed my major to global health. So like santé publique, like, cause I think it aligns more with what I want to do. I'm more passionate about being able to help people on like, not just a medical scale, but like on a large scale, but that has to like contribute, like I see, like dignity, like basically human dignity, like justice for others, human rights. It's like
woman empowerment.
Yeah, so it's like you're empowering individuals. It's not just exactly like it's not just kind of like that proximate relationship where you basically diagnose something and then you can prescribe the medicine because you've gone to medical school, but it's more so like trying to make things accessible for people, like giving people a voice, trying to uplift people that have been brought down and oppressed. And then I want to integrate that with health as well. So like my goal is to be able to, like God willing, to be able to like strengthen health systems within like West Africa, most specifically in Mali, but just anywhere around that because it's all the same. And I want to be able to like increase accessibility and availability of certain like health resources to people and just empower people because it's not fair that they don't have, there's such a big disparity in terms of health and healthcare for people just because they're living in certain areas. And I want to work in something like that. Maybe some policy change, some global governance, but I still want to be like on the ground working with real people. So
like you really want to have an impact
on like a
on
large
the community.
Scale, like a population thing. I want to help a lot of people. So that's my PAW goal. Global health.
That's amazing.
That's good. One last question. Okay. So since PAW is about being authentically you, what hobbies do you enjoy the most?
What makes me authentically me? I like to do a lot of things. I love to laugh. I love to dance. I love documentaries. I love to hear about different people's stories. I enjoy things that make me kind of cry, but not like in a sad way, but like inspire me to the point of tears. So I like a lot of global health documentaries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I won't just watch anything.
What is your favorite documentary
I have
then?
no idea. I really don't know. I watch a lot of YouTube ones. Like there's this one channel called Unreported World, and like they talk about these different problems like all around the globe that people don't really know about. And it's just nice because it gives certain groups of individuals representation that they're not used to getting, but then it also informs us about things that are happening around the world. I just like to talk with people and understand more about the human experience.
Okay, so I'm gonna let Saron do our second game of presentation.
Hi, Farafin.
Hi, Sarah.
So we're gonna play a little game.
Okay.
We're gonna ask you a few questions, and you will choose one of them. It's called a fireside chat.
Okay.
Okay, so first question, LA or Bamako?
Bamako.
Oh, wow.
That was really quick. She
Didn't
didn't even
decide at all.
think.
But then I actually thought
Okay.
again. After I said it, I thought again. I was like, but no, I like that.
But no, yeah, still Bamako.
Yeah.
Okay, urban or countryside?
Urban.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
same for
Yes,
me
we're
too.
definitely
yeah,
urban.
definitely urban.
Urban girls.
Soccer or basketball?
Basketball.
Really?
Why?
I don't know. I don't play the sport. I don't play either of the sports. I was going to choose soccer at first, but I like basketball players because they're tall.
Are you serious?
I mean, the soccer players are cool too. That's why you see I had
Bro,
some
that's so
hesitation.
cool.
Yeah.
Netflix and chill or Savoy Club in LA?
With somebody.
I mean, it's
or
you.
just in general.
It's your own interpretation.
Like more, if you have the choice between like having a Netflix and chill night with, I don't know, a guy and going out to Savoy Club and enjoy partying with your friends.
Oh, I'll go to the club.
All right.
Okay, so next question. Working in the US or working in Mali?
This is difficult because I don't know if I want to work in either. I kind of want to be traveling all the time. I don't want to stay here.
But okay, so let's say if you work in both countries, which one will you enjoy the most?
Probably Mali.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That
it's
makes
just more
sense.
family there. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
family.
It's a different context, different culture.
In the office or in the field?
In the field, definitely. Not in the
Yeah,
office.
it's less boring. What about braids, wigs, or natural hair?
Braids. I always have braids.
Yeah.
She's the braids
I know,
girl.
and she looks so
I've
pretty
never
all
seen
the
you
time.
with nothing
Really?
else.
Cause
I've never seen that. Even your natural hair.
I sometimes do it for a little, but I just don't like it. A lot of people are like, oh, you should keep it like that. But they don't understand that it takes... It's
No, but you
time-consuming.
look so much better with your braids though.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Really?
beautiful. I think for you, it's like part of your identity now.
Yeah, braids is a part of it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a braids
true.
person.
Okay, next question. Umu Sangare or Burna Boy?
Umusangare. It's easy. Fun.
Oh my gosh. That was so easy.
Because I love Umusangare. That when you can be having fun too, you could dance to, and you could also be sad too.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Mafe or yassa poulet or supu kanja?
Supu kanja. Even I want to eat that right now. I'm
Oh,
so
I love that.
hungry. Yeah, supu kanja.
Okay, so
that kind of ends our presentation. So now I think you listener you know a little more about who Farafin is.
Yes.
And now we're gonna talk about the real topic of the day:
Ta-da.
love life, parents, and African culture.
Kind of scary. Just kidding. That's gonna be fun.
So tell us, Farafin, what motivates you to talk today about love life, parents, and African culture to our PAW network?
I feel like there's a lot of things that motivate me to talk about this. One, I'd say probably my parents are kind of an example of this topic because my mom, again, she's like from Mali, born and raised there, and then my dad's African American, and they got married kind of, I wouldn't say outside of the culture, but like it's just a little different because some people are more strict with that. So that's one thing. That's an interesting dynamic that I feel like would be cool to explore, like just talk about a little more. Because even with my parents, I don't really talk about that much with them. But when you're growing up, you kind of see the differences in culture and how, and just how people kind of react and behave and interact with certain things because of their cultural context or like whatever they were brought up doing. And then also, I've just experienced a lot with like friends and family, even myself, where like they maybe kind of love somebody or have been with somebody that's not a part of their culture and then they couldn't be with that person because of that. It's just a lot of different things, and it's very common. So it's an interesting topic.
It's very common.
It's
like,
and I feel it's really common for us since we're all
especially
like
for us PAW
girls
women,
from like we're not living in our country, you know. So that's gonna happen.
And that even dictates how we go about our life, like choosing life partners. Like we always have that in the back of our mind. So it's just interesting.
Exactly.
It really
it's interesting.
matters a lot. So
yes, agreed. So to talk about it, just to help our listener follow us a bit, we're gonna first talk about why would we want to stick to our culture. So maybe because of family pressure, or maybe because men from our culture also represent something that we're looking for. And then we're gonna try to think about why would we want to date or marry also outside of our culture, and what to do when that happens. So we're gonna start by talking about family pressures. So why families are putting so much pressure to be sure that their daughters marry inside the culture.
I mean, you emphasize about daughters. I think it's not even daughters too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like maybe there's a little more pressure on us women, but even some men too. It's like depending on the family, there are also pressure to stick inside the culture.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Agreed.
But I feel like, so the thing is, it's understandable, but I feel like there's always it all depends on the extent to which each family goes in terms of emphasizing that thing. Because it'll be some families like, okay, they would rather their child or their children marry within a similar culture because maybe they're thinking for long term. They know that difficulties come with not sharing the same viewpoints. It's very true. I see it. I know it. I've experienced it. It's really true. Because even my cousin, my aunt is Mali. She's and then my uncle is Nigerian. So it's still there's different cultures. I have a lot of my aunts and uncles have married different cultures. My other uncle, he married an Italian.
Do you mean your uncles on your American side or your Malian side?
All of this is my Malian side. All of this is my mom's side. So it's just interesting because I feel like our family we're not, or my grandparents, they're not as strict and stringent on those things. That's probably why it was okay for them to marry these people. Honestly, I think what really matters is the character of the person, whether or not they have good morals, whether or not they have principles, if they're a person of dignity, if they have some type of God consciousness, they just have to be a good human being. I feel like that's the basis for it. But then if you look past all of that, then all of those factors of culture come in. And I think the parents just don't want difficulties for their children. Or a lot of times, in the African community, people kind of talk a lot and they look at you different, or they might shame you in a certain way if you're not doing things that don't align with what's common or what's tradition or what they're used to. So I feel a lot of parents, even if in their heart they don't care that much, it's because they don't want to be talked about.
I think definitely, that's a good point that you said, right? On the long term, I think the parents, they have the best interest of their children, right? Yeah. Maybe they've seen also different stories about two different countries, mixing, and then there's a lot,
that's something they want to avoid as much as possible.
Exactly, because whenever you marry your children...
I actually have a story of something happening like that to someone in my family. So her mom didn't want, so she wanted to marry an Italian guy. She's from Senegal. And her mom didn't want it at the beginning. And then she was like, okay, I'll give you my blessing. But what happened is that it was people from two religions. One was Christian and one was Muslim, right? And the issue was that once the children were born, they say, okay, we're gonna breed him in a kind of Muslim way, so he shouldn't eat pork, even if he's not Muslim, let's say pork is kind of a no issue, he's not eating pork. Well, he went for holiday to visit his family in Italy. And what happened is that the family-in-law forced the children to eat pork. Kind of, just the family-in-laws didn't want to respect the boundaries that was set even by the parents. So sometimes, even if you marry someone who's working for you and who's going to respect your value and your traditions, and your family knows that, the family-in-laws might not agree with that. So sometimes your parents want to protect you.
That's what I'm thinking. Really at the end of the day, I feel like the parents just kind of want the best for you. Parents, I think that's what they want. So if they know that there's going to be problems, even if it's just with your intimate, your partner is no problem. But then their mom,
there's a whole family.
Yeah, there's a whole family. There's aunts, there's uncles, there's sisters. Like all of that can just cause problems for your own.
No, because it's true though. And the thing is, we always say that like whenever you marry somebody, you marry also their family.
It's true, yeah.
So sometimes we kind of forget, we kind of focus on like the nuclear family, like, the husband, the wife, and then the kids.
Because that's really,
but then whenever there's problem,
yeah, that's another thing. Like here, I feel like in the U.S. or like American culture, that's like the focus. Like family is your nuclear family. Family is just your wife and your children within your household. Like it's not.
But once you get home,
it's not your wife's mother or your husband's mother or your husband's father. Like it's not. That's like family, but they won't think of it in the same way as like where you kind of used to thinking of family. Like that's more of like, oh, my family-in-law. Like even for them to add that term is kind of, I don't know, it's just different. Because like here they'll be like your mom, but then like I feel like if your husband was referring to your own mom, to your mom, like within the Mali or like the whatever West African context, they'll say mama, like they'll call them their own mom. It won't ever be oh your dad, oh your mom. It'll be like mom and dad, or it'll be like mama and papa. Like even the way that they kind of talk about, like refer to other people's parents, is like different. They don't have the same concept of family here versus there. So
no, that's true.
Why maybe they're afraid of
it. So I'm actually gonna add like kind of a question here. Do you think that maybe for African culture it's even harder because we have more like cultural weight, like we are bringing more to like a relationship with our African background, so it's actually harder for us to go outside the culture because we're bringing so much already.
What do you mean by
harder?
Like what makes
culturally, right?
Yeah, because I feel like it wouldn't make anything harder. If anything, it's just gonna like kind of refine and like I don't know, make the playing field like more narrow. So like I feel like if we have we have more expectations because we want people to align with our culture. If we have a lot of culture, then that means we're gonna find somebody that aligns with our values no matter what. But if it wasn't the case, it would be maybe it might be easier to find somebody that because it's like not as many expectations, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's harder. And it's if anything, I feel like it's more of a positive aspect that we have so much that we're looking for. Like we want somebody that's rich in culture, like someone that's like culturally, but I don't know.
Okay, so basically, like whenever you talked about culture, right, about having a big baggage, and then we want to find somebody that has the same cultural baggage, kind of. Like I saw this article, right, and then like one person said the mother said that she would rather have her daughter or like her son, right, marry a white person compared to marrying somebody from Nigeria or like Ghana or Jamaica, right? Because they already have they also, like they have their own culture and they're also very engraved in it, if it makes sense. So they rather marry, you know what I mean?
I've heard of this notion before. Because sometimes even within Africa, like they won't want to marry some other like African culture.
Yeah.
It's so broad, It's not just like the same. The culture is different everywhere.
And we are really stick to our traditions and our values, and we're asking a lot. And if you ask someone with the same kind of cultural baggage to come and just like follow yours, he already has his own, so it's gonna be really, really hard. The article, actually, we're gonna put the link. It's called "This is Africa: Family Pressure," and it's a lot of example about stick dating within culture.
Yeah, because they usually said that white people, quote unquote, like they don't have much of a culture, so like it'll be easier for them to adjust in our culture instead of marrying somebody from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Congo, where they have their own Senegal. Or even from Senegal, right? Like they have their own baggage already.
I don't know. That one's like it's an interesting like concept, but I feel like I don't know if I fully agree with it. It's just like, it's understandable that like they might not have as much culture, but I think it's all relative. So if we think of like, first of all, white person, very general, like it's just like, okay, white person. But let's say a typical American, a white American male. So we take this individual and they have their set of American values and principles. Those values and principles don't align well enough with like someone from Senegal versus like someone from Senegal and then like someone from Ghana. Like I feel like the one from Ghana and Senegal would have probably like more similarities than the like white American male because white person can mean so much, you know, like it just depends on the context. And although they don't have as much, like their culture is not as rich as the African culture, the West African culture, they still have their like constructs and guiding principles that kind of guide their life and the things that they do. It depends on the white person, or it depends on the person and like where they're coming from. Because maybe one from Europe is different. Like maybe one from Germany is less culturally like engraved.
Open.
Yeah. Because I even have another aunt who's like, she's from Mali and her husband is German. So it's like it all depends on like the individual really. Because I feel like Americans,
I think that's the big thing.
They love their culture. Like they're very nationalistic. Like there's an American culture, you know, like there's a really prominent one too. Like you see it, like you know when this is like American culture. This is what we do in the US, you know.
So actually, it might just be a question of openness of your partner and of his family. You know, how open they will be to another culture.
Maybe so. Yeah. It's very complex this topic because you really don't know. Because you can be open, but then again, like your family and your extended family, it's just like there's a lot that goes into it.
I feel like you just need to, I mean, your family is going to put pressure. They have their reasons and you just have to understand those reasons and be able to talk about it with your partner and see if you can like solve the kind of issue, you know, because those issues, I think they kind of make sense.
They do make sense. And it's usually during difficult times that like you remember or you realize about all those cultural differences sometimes. So they just on the long term want to make sure that we prevent, you know,
those problems.
Those problems happening in the future.
But then how do you get to that? You have to really find somebody.
Agreed.
That's the thing. You really have to find somebody, and like you need to set those rules
from
like
the beginning. So that they understand
from
what
the
kind of
beginning.
person you
Yeah.
are.
Agreed.
Like you understand what kind of person you want, and then the both baggages, you know, like from your family and from their family, and see if you're ready to take that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, so there's a lot to think about.
And actually, I was like, it kind of bring me to the second type of things. It's like men from our culture. Let's talk a bit more about those men, you know, men from the country we're coming from. I don't know if one of you or if you know people who has experienced dating with people within your own culture, what were the perks? And also, do you think you'll be able to date someone from your who only live in their hometown, like dating someone who's only been living in Senegal, knowing that we've traveled a lot.
I'm very curious to hear Ramata's point of view.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, you guys maybe should talk about yours first because you guys kind of grew up more in Africa as opposed to
That's true. That makes sense. So
the thing is, I didn't really grow up in Senegal, so it's has always been hard for me to connect. Like, truth be told, I've never connected with guys that has never traveled, like live abroad or been in others country. I really cannot connect with them because we have we see life so much differently. We don't have the same expectations. We don't even think the same way, you know, like my goals is kind of like worldwide and their goal is kind of really culturally stick to Senegal, you know what I mean? And I'll feel kind of trapped and having like my resources being narrow if I stick to a guy who hasn't.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and it's the same thing that you said, right? Like, I mean, I did grow up in Africa, but I grew up in Gabon, which is kind of different culturally, also from Ivory Coast and Guinea, even, right? And yeah, definitely, I don't see myself dating somebody who just exclusively stayed in Africa. And like you said, I don't know, like the points of view are quite different. Like we see the world very differently. We have had different experiences, especially as women. I feel like whenever you come abroad, you become way more independent. You rely on yourself so much more.
And guys don't like that. Back home, they don't like this kind of...
They don't even like Exactly. They don't even like you mentioning it. You know, whenever you say that, oh, like, I'm going by my own, or like, I've done all that by myself, they just feel like you diminishing them, which is not what you want to do. You know, it's just exactly. I've had my own experiences. I've been very independent. So I don't know why you want me to give all that up just so that I can fit into your world.
Yeah. Which is
like it's
crazy.
about compromising, but like I'm not gonna give everything up just because you want me to be the perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
because some people also, like, I understand that because me as well, even because I'm living here, I grew up here, so, but I've always had like the blessing of being able to go back often to Mali, and like I've been to like Ivory Coast, just different parts. But as being that I've experienced that like different like cultural context and talked to different people, it's just, I don't think I would be able to connect with somebody on the same level if they haven't traveled as well. And understand, like, I don't want to make it like how do you say it, like a requirement or what prerequisite or something, like you have to have traveled in order for me to want to even be interested in you. Like, that's not the case, but it's just in terms of having like interesting and like dynamic conversations about things we could connect on a greater level than just what we know here. Like, I'd rather have those conversations than like, you know, just something local. Like, it's no problem to talk about the stuff that's going on within your immediate setting, but it just makes things more interesting when you can talk about things different from what everyone else talks about, because it's like you learn more when you have a better
and
I would say for me I would stick to my culture if I'm sure that I can have those things you just said, you know, like this kind of openness and this kind of curiosity and all of those. Like, I can stick with the culture. It's actually easier sometimes, you know, like having someone from your culture, if he has those kind of requirements that are like
again, we're not shutting them down. It's just
no.
If he has that, you know, global awareness.
Yeah, that's like what I look for. Like, some people haven't necessarily had the chance to even travel, but they have this broader idea of like, they know that there's something else out there. I need somebody that's globally aware.
And they're curious about that.
They want to be in a different, like, they want to know about different human experiences around the world. Like, I need someone that's open-minded. Just period.
Yeah.
So actually, they don't have to have lived abroad. They just have to be curious about
just curious,
the others or the other culture.
They have to be like, they have to be aware, like globally, or like someone that listens to news, not just one kind of news network. Like, I remember I had this one teacher in my high school, and it's crazy because I went to like this like private Christian school, and I have nothing to do with that kind of like it's so different. Like, from me, I'm like African and like Muslim, and I just went there because it's a good school within our like city. But either way, I went there, and just like the culture there was so different than what I'm used to. And then these teachers would just be coming up to us, telling us things that we didn't even ask for. Like, he was like, yeah, I get most of my news from Fox News Network. That's like, I'm more of like on the right conservative side. It's like, okay, we get it, but like, that doesn't make you anything special because you're not taking the time to understand what's going on really around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was part one, more about sticking to your culture and all the issue with that. Now we're going to talk about dating or marrying outside of your culture. So I want to talk about kind of the first topic, which is, I'm asking you a question, girls. I'm going to call it the scale of foreignty, meaning how foreign can we go? Like, how foreign can you go for a guy?
How foreign can I go? I don't care. I can go Austria, Germany, Japan, Corée, Sénégal, Argentine, Brésil. Oh, j'adore les Brésiliens. Les Anglais.
Hello, darling.
Would you like a cup of tea, darling?
I feel like I also like this kind of guy also that have this kind of mixed culture, because you're talking to me about English, but I would say like an English Jamaican or an English Ghanaian or even a Senegalese Brazilian or a Senegalese Korean. Like, why not?
Girl.
Voila.
Yes.
Voila.
I like that.
See, me, I like that, but you still have to have that African in you. Me, I love Africans. It's just kind of what it is.
No, I do like them too.
Yeah, but
I don't discriminate against.
Yeah, I don't discriminate against, but I would prefer
it's just easier.
Yeah, you see,
for some stuff.
But I very much prefer it. Yeah, and I'm thinking like, I'm here living in America, grew up in America, but for some reason, I just feel like I'd rather have maybe an African that's living here that understands both cultures as opposed to just like
I agree.
African American. Like, that's not a problem at all. Like, there's lovely African Americans. We love them. But if I don't see those those like special values in an African American as opposed to seeing it in like an African, then
I agree.
I won't choose African.
Me, it's actually, when I say I want African, it doesn't mean I want someone who's from Africa. Or what I mean when I say I want African is someone who is kind of who has the same first set of values, you know, like the respect you can have to your parents, or this kind of, you know, how the children should behave, those kind of stuff.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Africans that don't even have that. So it's like it really
that's the thing. That's why it's bad when we say we want African, or like we want a certain type of people.
But I like like in terms of attraction, I think I like Africans.
But you can actually have those all those values in someone that is not African. For instance, someone who has grown, like a white guy who has grown up in Africa. What do you feel like? He might have those values.
Yeah, it might have those values. That's why I'm saying I don't discriminate against, right?
So then you have to
because sometimes it's like we focus so much on, okay, he's African, he's ticking that box, or he's, you know, European, is taking that box, and we should focus more on like what values does that person really have that would be lifting us and just making our lives better, something like that, right?
Yeah, we don't want to.
But again, it's like
difficult for us. Oftentimes, we're coming from those really stringent African cultures.
No, that's what I'm saying. Exactly,
so
they make it
just
so
depends on the person, but also in terms of like what you like, what you're attracted to, like that's also different. So it just really all depends.
Girls, to be like sincere, the thing I'm looking for a guy is the vibe I'm gonna have with him.
That's what you have like, to look for.
The vibe is not. It doesn't mean. I mean, first I want a guy who's gonna, I don't know, listen to the same kind of music, go like enjoy the same kind of stuff I'm gonna enjoy. He can be like, he can even be Chinese. I'll be good with that. But it's just that the probability that he's gonna be black and African is gonna be way higher, because most African and black guy, we kind of share the same values. But it can actually be, I don't know, an Australian maybe, right? Sarah?
Yeah, so
why do you say white, Sarah?
I don't know. You're the one who started talking about Austrians. I don't even know an Austrian in my life. So
okay, okay. The thing is, again, from its open-mindedness, right?
Yeah.
You see, I see a lot of mixed couple, and to be honest, I love watching really them because sometimes you look at the husband. Let's say the husband is from Austria, right? And then he embraces the culture of the wife.
She has something with Austrians.
She loves
Austrians, right?
Because she keeps saying.
No, it's really just an example. I could pick Germany, I could pick English, she would say the same thing.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, it's just, again, like, it's that openness. Like, how much are you willing to discover my culture?
Because there'll be some artists that are not going to do that at all.
Exactly, they're not going to do that.
But also,
but truth be told about mixed race marriage, I've observed too. There are the kind where both cultures are conserved during the marriage and the relationship, but in some other mixed marriage, and most of the time when one of the family doesn't agree with the marriage, is that a culture takes over the other one. Like if you have, for instance, there is a lot of like, I don't know, a Senegalese girl marrying a French guy. Well, if the Senegalese family wasn't really into the French guy or like the French family and all, well, the girl is gonna become like French, you know, like she's gonna resent her Senegalese culture. Mm-hmm. So you have to also find in the mixed marriage, you need to have a good balance between those two cultures.
The point is, we're talking about, let's say, when both cultures agree, right? Or like when both families agree and they're all happy with that situation, right? Mm-hmm. Like we realize that it's not more about he's African or he's from blah, blah, blah. It's more about the connection that you have and the harmony, I think. But on the long term, again, cultural differences might bring in some problems.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to agree from the beginning, right? Like, this might be an issue. How are we going to tackle it? Are you going to be willing to tackle it? And if you feel like it's not going to work, that's when it's going to be a problem. Like, let's say again, let's use the religion, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is
in a lot of mixed couples, that can be a problem. One can be atheist, one can be Catholic, one can be Muslim, right? And it's like, let's say you have kids, are you going to be willing to give up your non-believer, like stuff, to let your children go to a mosque?
Yeah,
those are the stuff you have to think about.
Yeah, that's like the culture, because religion and culture are so like intimately intertwined. That matters so much. Usually, a lot of times, that's even really what it is. That's like that's the point of like, okay, there's you either choose or you can't. It's either one way or another. Because a lot of times it comes down to how are they going to raise the children. And some people say, okay, we'll do both. They'll decide. But really, at the end of the day, that's if you're very like passionate about your religious like journey or your spiritual journey, and you are with somebody who doesn't fully align with that journey, it's going to be different.
It gets an issue.
It's really a problem.
Yeah, but actually it's an issue. But I've known people, like I have an example of a couple for which it works. Like the woman is a Christian, like she's going every Sunday to the church and all, like she's a believer. And the guy is a Muslim, like he's doing his prayers and all. And they've been married for so long right now. And how did they make it work? They just talked, like before getting married, they were like, okay, I have my faith, you have yours. How is it going to be for the children? They kind of decided to say, okay, the guy is going to be a Muslim. The guy, like if we have a boy, it's going to be a Muslim. And if we have a girl, she's going to be a Christian. But what happened is that just both children had both religions, and they actually have chosen, and it got like mixed up, and they actually have both, and they had the chance, which actually we didn't really have, but they had the chance to choose. So it's just, I think if you talk,
example.
Yeah, but that's
work.
kind of like mine. Like my dad was Christian before he married my mom. And like even like he converted, of course, for like the Islamic like marriage. But then if you think about it, even when I was young, I was still sometimes, because you convert, okay, like it's not too stringent if it's just you're converting for the marriage to make it official, but like still in the beginning, maybe he was like used to going to church and stuff. So sometimes I'd go to church with him when I was like really young. So like I've also had the chance to see kind of both sides. And like I went to a Christian school. So, it's like, it's good and stuff, but also if you think about it, it's different when it's like the male versus, it's like the woman versus the man. Like you can't, if for instance, my situation, if you're Muslim, you can't just marry anyone. You have to marry another Muslim. That's how it's written. So I can't, like, it won't be the same. Like, it won't be like this Muslim man married this Christian woman, and like they kind of were able to like compromise and choose. Like it's just a different dynamic when it's the woman who's Muslim versus the man, and it's always different when it's the woman versus the man. There's just more leeway when it's a man versus.
It's
a
harder,
woman. So for us to talk about it's like a wonderful like example, like the children are able to choose things, but like that's because it's the privilege of being a man.
Yeah, agreed.
In that context.
So
but
my question is now, so like, how do you, like, what steps would you take, let's say you're in the mixed couple, to make sure that it gets as successful as like, Ramata's or Farafin's family, or as your uncle? Like, what steps would you think will be important from the beginning?
The people I think it's all about communication and understanding, because my dad doesn't go to church. My dad is literally like a Muslim. Like he goes to Jummah on Friday. Like he's fully practicing Muslim now, but in the beginning it wasn't like that. So it just really depends on the person you're with. You have to know who you're with and see if they're going to even be willing to go to that. So it just depends really on who you're dealing with.
And that's why you're going to see, you should see also, right? Like, are you going to be willing to spend your life with someone who
doesn't align with you and these really
exactly, it doesn't align with you and might maybe even take you away from those values that you cherish.
Which is also
that's actually what you should avoid, is someone who's gonna like not respect your beliefs and actually try to change that. As long as the person is okay with respecting your boundaries, I think it can really work, because for me religion is something personal anyway, so
it is.
If you can make that work, it's okay. If you can't, it's not gonna work out.
Which is I think that's the thing that of the culture. It's like you don't want to come to the point where they're gonna in some way maybe intentionally disrespect you, or like I don't even disgrace
take you away from your
or like
culture.
Detach you from what you're used to, like the things that you cherish and love. If that's what's gonna happen, even if you don't intend it to happen, it's very, very possible that it'll happen, because obviously when you love somebody or like if you have feelings for somebody, it's just a
compromise so much. Sometimes.
It's a different dynamic. So like sometimes you may be compromising things that you told yourself you're not gonna ever compromise in the past. So just really, you should be, that's why it's good to be maybe kind of focused on the kind of person you want to let into your life, so that when and if that happens, or if that might be a possibility, it'll be different. Like it won't be as easy for you to kind of like go away from what you're used to or the things that you love.
Agreed. And I will add, girls, very important, even if those two people communicate and agree and all, also put both family in-laws together and say and talk, because those sometimes are the real issues. So.
That's a lot of times that's what it is, especially West African culture. I would even say maybe it's just African culture in general. Why is that a thing?
But when you marry, like in African culture, you don't marry someone, you marry his family, like, or her family, period. It's a union, it's a family union, which is actually nice, because then you gain a family by with your marriage. Like, you have an entire new family,
which is beautiful. But it's like, but the thing is, sometimes I'll have like understand a lot of different mother-in-laws, like from like people's experience, like they'll be so harsh and mean towards, like, let's say we're the new wife, like they'll really, it's almost as if they hate you. But I mean, I don't know if they hate, but it's like they just have so much anger, or like, I don't know how do you say, like they have so much negative energy towards the wives.
They don't accept you as easily. That's something that I really just don't understand.
I never can get it. Like,
I'm like, bro,
you know, you were a wife.
One
you had
day,
this position
I
one
know.
day, and if I was in that position, I would never do that to somebody.
I just even think about, you have some daughters, right? Do you really think you'd be fine seeing your daughter being treated the same way you're treating your daughter-in-law right now?
That's why I just don't understand, like, what gives you the right. That's all about. That's why you want to be really understand who you're marrying, who you're with, their parents. And I feel like it's always really good to understand whether or not your partner, like whoever you decide to be with, is close with their family or not, because that's an important factor.
And also something important, meet your family in-laws before getting married. That's something like because like it's not that obvious, because like from my experience, I've like noticed that in Senegal people are okay with two people getting married, and then after the marriage, we'll get to know the family and all. And I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. You need to figure out if both family are gonna work out before accepting and being okay with the marriage, you know?
That's very true. Like,
that's I
would
think
be
that's
afraid
important.
to go into any real marriage if the
me too, right? If I've never met like your side of your family.
No.
Okay, so that was I don't know if you have something to add, but that was really interesting. Let's see. I'm gonna ask some kind of a wrap-up questions, and each of you are gonna give me your answer and kind of wrap everything we've set up. So, for you, in terms of relationship and all, and culture, what should you base your choice on? So I'm gonna let Ramata start first. What are the main criteria and stuff you are gonna base your choice on?
It's kind of just like the things that I already said. Like, I definitely want somebody that's, first of all, like, really close with their family. I want somebody that's close with their mother. And if they have any sisters, like, they're close with their sisters, or, like, whatever women are in their family, I want them to have, like, a very, very strong, like, and, like, a loving relationship with those people. Because then that's the I guess, like, the guideline, or like the outline of how they're supposed to treat you as a person. And if they're not loving towards these people, how are they gonna be loving towards you? Like, that's essential. Also, they should be somebody that's God conscious, because I'm very passionate about, like, religion, and I feel like I want someone to understand that aspect and be able to connect with me on that level.
I think it's just a wise person.
Like, I want somebody that shares culture. Like, I love Africans, but it depends on where you're from in Africa. But yeah, I want that. And I also want somebody who's just, like, outgoing and, like, very understanding. Like, I want you to be open to things and not be closed off, have, like, one of those discriminatory, like, minds.
Nice. Okay. And Sarah?
Me criteria. I mean, tradition-wise, I'm open to really any culture in West Africa. Let's be more specific.
That's kind of
all right. But I think definitely, like, religion is a big thing. Like, I want somebody that brings me closer to God,
you want somebody that makes you better.
Islam. You know? Exactly, that really makes you better.
A better person. Like,
and
I can make them a better person.
And you need to be goal oriented. Period, man.
Yeah,
I need you to be as ambitious as I am.
Yeah, I even forgot to say that. That's really vital.
More, actually.
That's like Jen.
I feel like I'm pretty ambitious. So, like, I don't want to be the one with only, all
the ambition, the other ones.
Exactly.
Kind of you need someone to either be on that level or even more, so they can inspire you within that relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
For me, I would have like 5 points, which is kind of what you just said. What is very important is also to have, like, when I say someone from the same culture, I mean, someone, when I say the same culture, I don't say the same country. I mean the same cultural, meaning we'll have the same expectations, we'll have the same things we like and all of that. Culture for me, it's not about the country, it's about as in French, we'll say the same délire, like we're in the same vibe, like we're vibing. That's what culture means for me. Second thing I would say, I need someone who is open, really curious, who loves to travel because I love traveling. Who has a limitless way of thinking, meaning that he's not gonna say, oh, okay, I'm gonna limit myself to something, or I cannot do something. I want someone who's able to say, I can do everything, and I'm gonna try doing everything during my life here. And then I will say communications. I need someone that I could talk to and talk. I think like communication is the key to every single relationship, basically.
That's really true.
I'll check the family-in-law, totally, because family-in-laws, I've heard so many bad stories. I'm like, I don't want to get involved in that. Thank God my parents, like the families-in-laws are really getting along, and I want that for my family. Important. And then, as you were saying, I need someone as ambitious as I am, because I'll be really ambitious. And,
But Farafin added a good point. Definitely, we want somebody funny.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, that was a really, really, really interesting talk. We've talked about so many things. Just a reminder for our listeners, we're gonna put some sources. So the BBC article that Sarah was talking about, we're gonna put the link. And thank you for listening to that. And maybe Farafin, do you want to add something, a tips or something you want to say to the PAW network, maybe outside even of this topic, but just what do you want to say to the PAW network?
I want to say, first of all, thanks for having me, because I really enjoyed this conversation, and I feel like it's really necessary for people to have these discussions on I don't know, very, very specific issues, but things that we're always thinking of in the back of our mind. Like, we don't always get the chance to talk and have this discourse and then have other people hear it. So I really appreciate the PAW network for allowing this to be something. And then I feel like just in general, a tip. Thank you. She said you're welcome. A tip for people. I don't know. I feel like my tip is just be as genuine as you can. Like, just be the real you. Be you. Be who you are.
Thank you,
Thank
Farafin.
you. That was such a great way to close.
Thank you very much, Farafin. Thank you to our listener for listening. Follow us on social media to have already the information. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You just have to type Powerful African Women on your phone or your computer.
Now. Powerful African Woman, and for Twitter, it's Power Woman in one word.
And give us your opinion, your suggestion, your comments. Comment on this topic. What do you think about love life, parents, and African culture? Share as much as possible this podcast to strengthen the PAW network.
Yeah, definitely share your experiences about how dating life has been going. You can reach us also through email at powerfulafricanwoman@gmail.com. Again, just give us your opinion, ask us questions, really share your feeling about the topic that we shared with you today. Send us some love. We take everything as always.
Yeah, and talk about PAW to your entourage.
And don't forget to bring out the PAW in you.